I'll get you inside. Stay with me.
No! Leave me!
The bitter mountain wind howled through the pines as Sarah Whitfield stumbled along the rocky trail, her face swollen and bruised from a beating so vicious that every breath she drew felt like swallowing broken glass. Her husband, a man who had once vowed to cherish her, had dragged her to the edge of nowhere and left her for dead after she finally dared to defy his drunken, violent rage. She collapsed in a heap of torn calico and matted hair, her fingers clawing at the frozen ground while the last fragments of hope dissolved into the gathering twilight that promised nothing but a cold, lonely end. Far above on a ridge, a solitary mountain man named Gideon Stone paused mid-stride, his keen eyes catching the flutter of something pale and broken against the dark timberline below. Gideon had spent years avoiding the troubles of the lowlands, but something about that crumpled form stirred a deep, protective instinct he had long thought buried beneath layers of solitude and sorrow. What this rugged trapper did next would not only save a shattered woman's life, but ignite a love so fierce that it would challenge the very darkness of the world that had tried to destroy her. Gideon descended the treacherous slope with the sure-footed grace of a man who had spent 30 years reading the land, and he knelt beside the unconscious woman whose shallow breaths fogged the cold air in faint, fragile wisps. He gathered her gently into his massive arms, wrapping her in his own buffalo coat while whispering, "I won't leave you," words that became a solemn vow echoing through the silent, snow-dusted forest. Carrying her to his remote cabin nestled against a granite cliff, Gideon stoked a roaring fire and began the painstaking work of cleansing her wounds with boiled water and soft moss, his rough hands moving with astonishing tenderness. For 3 days and nights, Sarah hovered between life and death, and Gideon never left her side, brewing bitter herbal teas and praying in a low rumble that blended with the mountain's eternal song. When Sarah finally opened her eyes, she flinched instinctively, but the sight of the giant man's gentle gaze and the simple bowl of broth he offered slowly began to untie the knots of terror inside her. She learned that Gideon had once lost a wife and child to a fever many winters ago, and his own grief had driven him into the wilderness where he swore he would never again let anyone get close enough to break his heart. Yet here he was, patiently feeding a beaten stranger and mending not just her broken body, but the shattered fragments of her trust, one whispered reassurance at a time. As Sarah grew stronger, she insisted on helping with the simple chores, discovering that the man who trapped beaver and wrestled bears could also recite poetry from memory and carve delicate wooden birds that seemed ready to take flight. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching a harvest moon rise over the jagged peaks, Sarah admitted that her husband would surely be hunting for her, and a shadow of old terror crept back into her healing eyes. Gideon reached over and took her hand in his voice steady as granite as he promised that no man, husband or otherwise, would ever lay a cruel finger upon her again while breath remained in his body. That was the night Sarah realized that she was falling in love not just with her protector, but with the deeply kind and honorable man who had shown her mercy when the entire world had turned its back on her suffering. When her vengeful husband finally tracked her to the high country with a pistol in his belt and murder in his heart, Gideon stood between them on the rocky trail and offered the man a single chance to walk away and never return. The husband, too consumed by rage to recognize true strength, lunged forward, and Gideon disarmed him with an effortless movement that sent the pistol skittering into the ravine before, pinning the abuser to the ground with a knee. Gideon then hoisted the pathetic man down the mountain and delivered him to the territorial marshal with a detailed account of the brutal beating, ensuring that justice would finally be served in a court of law rather than on the edge of a fist. With her past laid to rest behind iron bars, Sarah felt a profound freedom wash over her, and she returned to the cabin not as a fugitive, but as a woman who had chosen her own future among the wild, beautiful peaks. The mountain man, who had once believed his heart was as frozen as the winter streams, found himself completely and irrevocably in love. And he asked Sarah to stay not out of obligation, but because her presence made the cabin feel like the home he had lost so long ago. They married in a simple ceremony beside a waterfall that spring, the only witnesses a pair of curious eagles and the eternal mountains that had sheltered their improbable, healing love. Together, they built a life defined not by the brutality of the past, but by the quiet rhythms of shared labor, the warmth of a hearth fed with pine logs, and the knowledge that mercy had woven them into an unbreakable bond. Travelers passing through the high passes began to speak of the mountain couple whose hospitality was legendary, and many a weary soul found refuge in their cabin, leaving with a full belly and a renewed faith in human kindness. Sarah, once a woman who cowered at shadows, became a healer herself, learning the mountain herbs from Gideon and delivering remedies to isolated families who marveled at the gentleness of the giant man's wife. When the first gray streaks appeared in Gideon's beard, Sarah would tease him that his mercy had not only saved her life, but had created a whole new world of love that echoed through every valley and timberline. He would simply pull her close and repeat the words he had first spoken on that freezing night. "I won't leave you," now a covenant that had weathered every storm and remained as solid as the ancient stone around them. Their story became a legend whispered around campfires across the frontier, a testament that true strength is not in dominance, but in the mercy that stoops to lift the broken from the dust. If this story of a mountain man's unyielding mercy and a brave woman's second chances inspired you, then you already understand the power of the Tailies we share here at Western Tailies Official every single week. Please honor our hardworking team by tapping that like button, hitting subscribe with the notification bell, and leaving a heartfelt comment below. We truly read and treasure every single word you share with us. Your engagement fuels our passion to unearth more hidden gems of frontier courage and compassion. And we invite you to join our global family of story lovers who believe in the enduring power of kindness. Remember that even in your darkest hour, mercy can appear like a mountain man emerging from the storm, and your own story of healing is waiting to be written with every new dawn that rises over the peaks.